Hello and welcome to Lore of the Storm, the series that looks to reveal the lore behind your favourite champions in Heroes of the Storm. Last time we looked at the Evolution Master Abathur, and today we'll be looking at the lore behind a couple of heroes that I saw mentioned in the comments of the video and Reddit. Sticking with the Starcraft universe, we'll be looking at Sergeant Hammer and Lt.Morales. Both ladies belong to the human race in the Starcraft universe. All humans originate from Earth, but a major split occurred during an event known as the Long Sleep. Around the year 2231, humans deemed unfit for society were packed into several supercarriers: the Naglfar, Argo, Serengo, and Regan. In what should have been a one-year trip, these carriers were expected to travel to Gantris 6, a planet outlying from Earth, and their passengers would colonise this new world. Due to a computer malfunction, the ships were left stranded, the coordinates of Gantris 6 and Earth erased from their memory banks. This left the supercarriers blindly barreling through space at warp speed for 28 years. With their warp drives nearing critical meltdown, their engines battered, and their life support batteries all but drained, the ship's emergency protocols were automatically initiated. Now 60,000 light years from Earth in a region of space known as the Caprulu sector, the ships crash-landed upon planets capable of supporting life. Regan and Serengo landed on Umoja, but all of Serengo's passengers died in a horrific crash. Argo landed on Moria, and Naglfar on Tarsonis. These humans, now stranded, would come to refer to themselves as Terran. This term has been widely adopted by other races of the galaxy, and Blizzard themselves, to refer to all humans. After 60 years believing themselves to be the only survivors of the Long Sleep, the most technologically advanced colonisers, the Tarsonians, made contact with the other two Terran planets. Three powerful factions arose: the Terran Confederacy, Callewier Combine, and the Umojan Protectorate. The Umojans formed a fair democratic government, with a philosophy of letting nothing go to waste. The Callewier Combine founded their power upon mining and industry. The Terran Confederacy grew to be the greatest of these three powers, rapidly expanding their territory through colonisation and cultivating the greatest of the Terran armies. At the height of Confederate power, huge quantities of money and valuable materials were being shipped to their core world of Tarsonis. The economic boom saw the planet's population grow at an exponential rate. Families built their fortunes, and as their coffers swelled and their power grew, these influential Terran families were claimed by greed and avarice. The gap between rich and poor grew, and the ruling families would use increasingly violent methods to keep the outlying colonies in step. In the year 2489, the inhabitants of the planet Korhal had had enough of the Confederacy's tyranny. An open rebellion, led by Angus Mensk and supported in secret by the Umojan Protectorate, began, and the Confederacy were forced to withdraw from the planet. The Confederacy did not take this defeat lightly, sending Sarah Carrigan and two other ghosts to assassinate Angus Mensk. They succeeded, killing Mensk, his wife, and his daughter. However, the resistance did not die with them, as Angus's son Arcturus took the reins. When rumours of an open alliance between Mensk and the Umojan Protectorate reached their ears, the Confederacy responded. They launched a salvo of 1,000 Apocalypse-grade nuclear missiles at Korhal. With their home planet destroyed, a huge blow was dealt to the resistance. Mensk was not defeated, continuing to stand against the Confederacy, and public outrage at the Confederacy's actions saw Mensk's new group, the Sons of Korhal, readily supported. In the year 2499, the Confederacy found themselves not just fighting rebellious Terran, but two alien races, the Protoss and the Zerg. Using a piece of Confederate technology called a psi emitter, Mensk was able to attract the Zerg to key locations, using them as biological weapons to tear apart the Confederacy. He replaced them with his own government, the Terran Dominion, in 2500. Now holding power, the Dominion very quickly started to give way to the same corruption that had permeated the Confederacy. One soldier of the Terran Dominion was Bama the Hammer Kowalski. a siege tank operator who we know as Sergeant Hammer. The siege tank has been a unit in the Terran arsenal since the first game, and over the years has seen several redesigns. The tank's original concept was that of a final defence static cannon. However, as wars were fought, the Confederacy saw the need for a more adaptable heavy unit. In the year 2480, the first mobile siege tanks were created, building on an existing tank design. The siege tank was now able to switch between two modes. The assault mode allowed the unit to act as a mobile armoured support, using light weaponry to attack. The tank's siege mode anchored it in place as a powerful artillery piece, making the tank static but allowing it to fire the powerful Mjolnir cannon, providing more range and firepower. This was ideal for besieging an enemy position, or serving as a strong defensive emplacement. The tank's design was developed further in the year 2491, when the Confederacy created the AAV-5 Arclite. These tanks were crewed by 3 operators, a driver, gunner, and navigator, though it could still be crewed by a single operator. The Confederacy would often use the Arclite as an armoured personnel carrier, delivering units into the thick of the action, deploying them through side and rear hatches. The Arclite further improved on the siege tank's design by having an onboard navigation system installed. This allowed the operators to survey the area and signal allies during combat. The Arclite still had a hatch at the top of the tank if an operator wished to survey the land with their own eyes. A targeting system further improved on the old design, sensing heat signatures and reliably informing the crew as to whether their target was in or out of range. In its original iteration, the Arclite would switch between plasma cannons in assault mode to more standard explosive rounds in siege mode. The siege cannon was later upgraded to also fire plasma rounds. This type of ammo was better for performing scorched earth operations, making sure the Confederacy's enemies were left with nothing. The Arclite's flaws were revealed through ongoing conflict with the Zerg. It was found that in both modes the Arclite's lighter armour was not fit for purpose against close quarters attackers. There were no units in the Terran army that could compensate for this weakness, so the design of the vehicle had to be changed. The Crucio was a creation of the Dominion in 2502 and is the siege tank variant that Sergeant Hammer pilots. The Crucio features superior protection and armaments when compared to the Arclite. This increases the production cost of the tank, but its benefits justify its increased expense. These upgrades allow the Crucio to more capably defend itself in an open battlefield, and bring its weight to a hefty 60 tons. The treads of the Crucio are its main weakness. If these are crippled, the tank becomes completely immobile. The design recognises this, and a series of tubes are found in the Crucio's tracks to pump a fast-drying gel into damaged areas of the track, acting as a replacement. This allows the Crucio to keep moving when any other tracked vehicle would become completely useless. If the track is beyond repair, it can be easily replaced. A surefire way to make friends with the tank's driver. When entering siege mode, the tank's tracks turn outwards to support it, and 2 stabilising legs deploy to offer even greater anchorage for the tank to fire its 180mm shock cannon, which delivers a hefty payload of superheated tungsten. When this cannon fires, it is often referred to as bringing down the hammer. No doubt this is where Sergeant Hammer's nickname comes from. It is near universally believed among other resentful Dominion troops that the cannon of the Crucio do more damage to friendly targets than to the enemy. This belief meant siege tank operators often had to stick together during shore leave, at risk of violent discrimination. The belief was so prevalent, not to mention grounded in some truth, that Lars Corp, a Terran arms manufacturer, developed a smart shell for the siege tank. This shell scans for allies in the impact zone and adjusts its detonation footprint to minimise friendly fire fatalities by up to 75%. Hammer's accuracy with the Crucio's siege cannon is near legendary, dropping shells literally inches away from her allies and harming none of them, while devastating enemy forces. Despite her proving her prowess, other military units are still wary of Hammer. One Marine writing, "Never trust a woman who paints her tank red," in their field manual. It seems Marines still distrust siege tank operators for the lives they've claimed in the past. The field manual quote also tells us, "Hammer has chosen to paint her tank red." but most siege tank operators do not customise their tanks. Why Hammer has chosen to do this is not explained. It could be to improve the visibility of her tank on the battlefield, to help allies identify her and in turn mock her enemies. Or she could just really like the colour red. The Sergeant has earned her rank, serving many tough tours under the Dominion in the Caprulu sector. The roar of her cannon strikes fear into friend and foe alike. Hammer continued to fight for the Dominion after Valerian Minx took over from his father as Emperor. Arcturus was overthrown by his son, Rayna and Kerrigan, now the Queen of Blades, and Valerian seeks to rule fairly, rather than become the tyrant his father was. While Sergeant Hammer was first introduced in Heroes of the Storm, she made her first appearance, during Starcraft 2's Legacy of the Void expansion. During the End War fought between the supremely evil Amon and the combined Protoss, Terran and Zerg forces, Hammer defended a Terran fortress on the planet Char from Amon's encroaching forces. This event can be played during a co-op mission in Starcraft 2, with 2 players defending Hammer's fortress from Amon's siege. Unfortunately, we don't actually see Hammer herself. Hammer's Q is the only ability that may seem odd to a few. The Spider Mine is a weapon more commonly connected to a Terran Vulture, a vehicle Heroes of the Storm players can earn as a mount by inviting friends to the game. It wasn't initially Sergeant Hammer that piloted the siege tank in Heroes of the Storm. It used to be General Warfield, who joined Arcturus' resistance after the bombing of Korhal. Warfield was Arcturus' most trusted military advisor, who eventually met his end at the hands of Kerrigan during the Heart of the Swarm expansion of Starcraft 2. Blizzard reasoned that Warfield was not known for driving a siege tank, having only ever appeared as a marine in Starcraft. So in 2013's BlizzCon, it was announced Warfield had been changed to Hammer. In the comments of the Reddit post for my Abatha video, it was mentioned that this change may have come after a Blizzard interview with the site Rock Paper Shotgun. This interview looked down upon the often overtly sexualised female character designs in the MOBA genre, citing the recent reveal of the Roller Derby Nova skin as an example. This led to a rather awkward end to the interview. Doing a little research, I don't believe this to be the case. The interview was published 22nd of November 2013, and BlizzCon was held from the 8th to the 9th. Which means this particular interview was probably conducted during BlizzCon, around the same time Sergeant Hammer was being introduced to the game. Was Hammer added due to increasing calls for strong female characters in games? I'd probably say it was likely, since the Starcraft universe does have an established lore character known for driving a siege tank, the Confederacy General Edmund Duke. Lt.Morales is based on the Starcraft Medic, a unit that has been in the game since the first expansion, Brood War. Medics have not always operated on the battlefield, but during the Guild Wars the Confederacy experimented with placing field medics on the front line. This war was fought between the Confederates and the Callewier Combine, ending in 2489 with Confederate victory. The Combine kept their autonomy, but many of its affiliated mining guilds were appropriated by the Confederacy. During the Great War in 2499, most medics remained stationed at Confederate bases to care for the wounded. Some medics were assigned to specific squads or platoons to provide medical procedures during fights against whoever the Terran found themselves up against, Zerg, Protoss, or other Terran. Field medics were easily distinguished by their white armour emblazoned with a red cross. Advances in medic technologies came from the UED, the United Earth Directorate, an Earth-based organisation which Lieutenant Rosa Morales belonged to. Morales joined the UED to make a difference and protect her family. Earth had not completely lost track of the long sleep survivors and had been observing them from afar. When the Terran engaged in conflicts with the Protoss and Zerg, the UED continued to observe, studying the battle tactics of the alien races and learning from them. Convinced they had the knowledge to counter any Protoss or Zerg attack, they too eventually joined the conflict in the Caprulu sector, with a plan to gain control of the entire sector. Morales was one of the first soldiers to be deployed in the sector upon the UED expeditionary fleet of 2,500. When recruiting medics, the UED found that it was predominantly females that applied. UED medics held a shield, as they were often singled out on the battlefield. While this made them tougher, they were often the focus of enemy soldiers. These shields are also fitted with trauma gear to provide on-site surgery. During combat, these medics were able to inject troops with medical nanobots, programmed for cellular hyper-repair. This allowed troops to heal 25% faster on the field. Despite medics in the area, Marines would still die. If medics judged them to be beyond saving, they would administer the final protocol drug, killing the Marine and ending their suffering. Generally speaking, a medic's only armaments are the A-13 flash grenade launcher that blinds enemies and a pistol. Morales differs here. Her A-13 grenade launcher serves to displace enemy troops, rather than blind them. UED medic designs would later be adopted by the Dominion, who opposed them. Over her long career, Morales was decorated as a peerless medic, able to keep her troops alive in situations where many others may have administered the final protocol. Due to her excellent service record, Morales was chosen to be equipped with experimental gear. I would guess this refers to the twin injector arms that extend from Morales' back, as other medics only have a single arm injector. This likely allows Morales to administer a greater number of nanomachines in a smaller amount of time. When asked how she is able to heal so effectively, Morales responds by saying, "It's easy, it's just like killing, only in reverse." Though other sources I found did attribute this quote to a different medic. Morales greatly misses her home, even the bugs found on Earth, as they are far less dangerous when compared to the Zerg. Interestingly, Morales also has a phobia of needles, but is fine with sticking them into her patients. The UED joined the Caprulu conflicts after the defeat of the Zerg's Overmind, a massive entity that dictated and controlled the actions of the Swarm. Leaderless, the Overmind's commanders, the Cerebrates, sought to create a second Overmind. The UED looked to control this Overmind to gain dominance over the Zerg Swarm. Morales was a key figure in achieving this. Her and several other UED medics administered powerful neurostim drugs to the young Overmind, allowing them to take control of it. It would seem their control was imperfect, however, as only a limited number of the Swarm obeyed their commands and would disobey if too far from the Overmind. The second Overmind was eventually destroyed by Kerrigan and Terry the Protoss, because we all know Zeratul was only added in Heroes of the Storm. The UED expedition was defeated, no ships surviving to report back to Earth. Only a few isolated pockets of survivors remain, and it's not clear if Morales is among them. If I were a betting man, I'd hedge my bets on her still being alive. While it was defeated, the UED expedition was only a small part of the organisation's power, and they will likely one day return to the Caprulu sector. Medics of the UED's design are still used in the Caprulu sector by the Dominion and Dominion-resistant groups like Raynor's Raiders. They are a cheaper alternative to airborne medivacs, units able to act as transport and healer. Heroes of the Storm players get to see this unit in action as one of Morales' ultimate abilities. So, there you have it, a brief look at Terran history, small tidbits of lore for Morales and Hammer, and a look at the units these two heroes are inspired by. If you've enjoyed the art I've used, all the artists I could find are in the description below. If you feel like giving the channel a dose of medical nanobots, we'd really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Of course, if you want to bring down the hammer on my efforts, then you can hit the dislike button. Next 2 episodes, I'll be looking at Diablo heroes, so let me know your suggestions in the comments below. I'll let you know now, I'm not likely to cover Tyrael or Diablo at the moment, as they will be very big projects. Until next time guys, I hope to see you in the Nexus.